Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture, comics, and gaming podcast. Today, we are talking about pop culture soundtracks and scores and vinyl and VHS tapes. I'm Blade O'Neill.
I'm Ken Brown.
And once again, appreciate you all joining us once again on another episode of Nightcap Chat. Appreciate you all listening, liking, sharing, subscribing. We ask that you do continue to do that, and show us some love in the comments about what other topics you want to hear. This episode was another one that we thought of ourselves, but if there's something that you want to hear us talk about, like, we are more than open to hearing your guys' suggestions.
That would be awesome. So it's ironic that you say that, because as you just bring that up, something always comes into my mind of like, what would be fun to talk about that I don't hear many people talk about. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if when you were a kid, do you remember Tyco racetracks? Like they were electric. They had a little trigger gun in your hand, and you put two little slot cars on a track, and they'd race around Triple H and race up walls. Yep. Were those not some of the coolest things you don't see much of anymore? They were,
and I wore it out.
Yes.
And then you're gonna laugh, and this is gonna actually kind of jump right into what we're talking about. It's a little trigger gun, right?
Yes.
And mine had this really long wire antenna popping out with a little piece of plastic.
Oh, you had one that was wireless then.
Yeah, mine was wireless. Cool. So because we were in the 90s, so we had a wireless remote control. But when it eventually wore out and broke, I popped the antenna off. And because it looked like a little black gun, that was my 007 gun.
Nice.
Because it was short like a little Walther PPK. So when I was a kid, I made that my James Bond gun.
That is awesome. Yes, dude.
I can't believe you brought that up.
Yeah, dude. It's like, talk about perfect transition there into James Bond. But yeah, those things were unbelievably fun. And the best part about them, too, is they would do a lot of movie themes.
Really? I didn't even realize that.
Yes, like that. There was a TV or movie themes. I remember there was a Knight Rider one. There's a Dukes of Hazzard one. It would always be a police car and then the cool car.
Yeah.
Like the General Lee or Kids. Or it would be a Trans Am and a police car for Smoking the Bandit. Or they would have the A-Team with the A-Team van be one slot car. Then the little army Jeep that would chase after the match up against the A-Team episode. Yeah. But when I would play with those, speaking of the music we were talking about, I would get my record player out or my cassette tape.
Yeah.
And I would play the theme song from the TV show or the movie.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Then okay, bud, let's go. It's like that. You get the one, you get the other. And you just race through the tracks. And those things were just so much fun for me.
Yeah.
It was just kind of one of those forgetful things that you kind of bring back memories just because of the topics we talk about. And
absolutely.
The music aspect of that. I remember playing cassette tapes or records of the different theme songs, or even doing it in our own dun, 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 while we're racing through. Just how different themes and different musics from different movies and TV shows just stick with you forever.
And
use them in life, everyday life, all the time.
And James Bond, first of all, we're talking about scores and soundtracks. James Bond had not only iconic scores, the 007 theme and all of that, but some of the songs that came out of all the movies, even up to Daniel Craig, all the way back to Sean Connery. There was Live and Let Die.
Yes.
View to a Kill by Duran Duran, and Paul McCartney did we were just talking about having brain fog. Paul McCartney did Live and Let Die, and that still gets radio play. It's an iconic Paul McCartney song. Forget about just being a movie song.
And Guns N' Roses did a recover of that too, as well, over the years too.
Yeah. Axl Rose,
Live and Let Die.
Yeah, gosh, yeah, poor Paul. But the James Bond, I collected them on VHS tapes.
Nice.
I had almost all of them. So by the time DVDs and everything came out, I have not had the motivation to collect them all again.
Yes.
Especially since the DVD box set was expensive, the Blu-ray box set's expensive. I still have the VHSs somewhere.
Nice.
I'm not sure which box they're in, but I have them in boxes.
Remember the box sets, the VCR sets?
Yeah,
they would like take
huge.
up a whole shelf by themselves.
Yeah,
it's going, all right, all 12 James Bond movies, and it's like that. You would have to build almost like a shelving unit just for that.
I remember they did a re-release of a lot of the James Bond ones, but because of the size it would have been, they did it in waves. So there was like, I want to say 4 or 5 at a time.
Okay,
and they were a little random. Like I think there might have been like 1 or 2 Sean Connery, and then like 1 Roger Moore, and then maybe a Pierce Brosnan, because they weren't just Sean Connery. Like they were mixed up. It was pretty weird, but they were expensive. So like I bought them, a single as a kid, or my parents, I guess I should say, bought them, 1 at a time.
Almost like a James Bond candy sampler.
Yeah, right, exactly. I remember I hooked up more than one VHS to my TV, and I queued up all the James Bond songs, and I made a compilation VHS of just the little music videos because I liked the music so much from James Bond. That was some of my early, editing,
nice.
from back in the day.
I do like the MTV music videos. I'd be sitting there doing homework back when I was in school. And then I said too, it was like that if there was a songs, like you can always memorize how songs began and end. So you check and see what the next song coming up was. And then, okay, boom, pause and record again. And then you make your own compilation MTV tapes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of, I think, was what the true lead in to what Beavis and Butthead, how it was developed. Yeah, because Beavis and Butthead, they used animation with that similar type of theory of like getting the coolest music to put together as like a cartoon video.
I wasn't allowed to watch that as a kid.
Okay. Yeah, but like they had little short segments during the show every once in a while.
Anyway.
But then they would do the segments of them just sitting there watching MTV.
Oh.
And they would have cut-ins of like the video with animation around it.
Yeah.
Like them watching it like on their TV. So they'd have the art, but then they'd have the video screen
of
what they were watching. And they just like totally troll all the musicians that were in the video.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. I said too, Beavis and Butthead's very raunchy at times, but it was if you like regular show is what I call the modern day Beavis and Butthead, toned down for modern audiences.
Okay.
And there's no music in regular show, but just the personalities between like just two friends hanging out, getting into trouble. That's more or less, regular show and Beavis and Butthead in its own shells.
I was too young, not too young, I guess, but like my musical tastes weren't quite developed, in the 90s yet. And I really regret missing out on a few things because I've recently become literally obsessed with No Doubt.
Nice, yes.
Like I'm like the biggest No Doubt fan.
Girl, that right? No Doubt.
Yeah. No, I love No Doubt. I listen to it all the time now, and like, man, like I was around for it, but I missed it.
Totally understand because I like the 90s are kind of a blur for me because so much regular pop culture stuff was put on the back burner for me.
Okay.
Like, I only read a few comics in the 90s, unfortunately, after the Image Blitz. I kind of was going to college and didn't have as much money to spend on comics the same way I did during high school with a job type of thing. And disposable income wasn't quite there. And then while I was working, I missed so many TV shows because I was working nights.
You missed Seinfeld then.
Yeah, so I missed a lot of Seinfeld. I mean, I would, once again, I try to record my favorite shows.
Yeah.
Like, I said too, like I would tape Monday Night Raw during the Monday Night Wars.
I think we recorded some
similar
some wrestling, but we were a little younger, so like what was Raw versus whatever else was a little confusing.
Yes,
to us.
Like SmackDown or WCW or whatever. Like
it just happened, and we didn't understand who, what, when, where, and why.
Yes,
all of a sudden, like great now they're doing a title shot with The Rock again, or Undertaker, or Kane.
The storytelling got too convoluted at times.
I guess so. And like those were the beginning of it kind of becoming more of a soap opera too. And I think that's when then we kind of fell out of it. Probably switched to Pokemon.
Yeah. And I said too, like the things I remember doing more was like going to see movies in the 90s.
Okay.
Which was weird because I remember seeing a lot of movies in the 90s.
Interesting.
But I don't remember seeing too much TV And the music, I was totally into the Seattle sound around that era, like Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots.
My wife loves
the
those.
Refreshments, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
That's what I'm like I think that's the nostalgia behind like that movie, The Singles. Did you ever?
I need to see The Singles then. Is that totally that era? That's going to be your next thing you're going to see hit now, like Stranger Things and all the 80s nostalgia is super huge. The 90s is only 5 or 10 years away. I was just telling
somebody that the other day. I was like, this is 2019.
Yes.
You know, the 80s is what was, 30 plus years ago. Guess what? Next year, it's going to be like,
You already started seeing happen with the Pokemon movie. Do you mean like that? It takes place in modern time.
The first Pokemon movie.
But like all the stuff that's like Dragon Ball Z is making a huge comeback now. Turtles is making a huge comeback. Like all these 90s Power Rangers.
Because look, they're like, we talked about it before. Like I have all this Mighty Morphin Power Ranger stuff that's based on the 90s show, but like they literally made it replicas for adults.
Yes, and instead of it being refreshed for like what they're doing now, they're going to start doing movies that celebrates all that stuff when it was popular.
Absolutely.
Like the 80s, that's why I love Stranger Things so much, is I can relate so much to everything they're talking about.
Maybe that's why I couldn't really get into it, because I was just before me. Well then,
and same thing in the 70s, like when people were watching Happy Days, all those people were in their 30s and starting to hit their 40s. They lived that.
I see what you're saying.
And,
I still liked Happy Days, as a kid watching the reruns.
And when was that 70s show on?
Yeah, you're right. That was 90s. early turn of the... Yeah, the 90s through early turn of the century, right?
Yeah, and that was like totally that era. The people that grew up that era, that was their life. And they could relate to it. It's such a major thing. Like same thing right now. What's that, the 1980s show that is on NBC, I think, where... it's kind of like Malcolm in the Middle of that era. Oh gosh, dude.
I have no idea.
But they all they do is celebrate 80s stuff during the show.
Okay.
And it takes place. It's a guy narrating. It's almost like Wonder Years for the 80s.
I'm not sure if I have NBC. That's why I don't know.
Because like the Wonder Years was another one. It was out during the 80s and it was talking about the 60s.
Yep.
And it's so funny, like that 20 years, that generation. It's like that. Okay, it's almost like a way of Hollywood sharing what their parents went through with their kids through the art of Hollywood. It was like, hey, this is what your parents went through. So you can relate a little bit more to your parents by watching this type of thing in a weird way of saying that. I mean, when they were your age, this is what they were doing. In a weird way, fictionalization of it.
And part of it too, I think, is just, like as the target demographic shifts, it's just an easy play to, garner the interest of, said target demographic. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to get a 90s push soon, like really hope we get a No Doubt reunion tour or something. Not that they broke up or anything, but just, Gwen is off with Blake Shelton doing whatever. And the poor band is just sitting behind. And that's why they did, they teamed up with the lead singer from, I think it's AFI. And they formed a different band called, I want to say Sound Car or something like that.
Soundgarden?
No, like Sound Car or
Sound
something.
Car?
Something like that.
Audio Slave? No?
This is a separate band. It's the band from No Doubt.
Yeah.
With the lead singer of, I think it's AFI.
Okay.
It's a different band. And they have their own songs and albums.
Off of No Doubt? That's cool.
No Doubt and AFI, because I went to an AFI concert, I think it was a couple of years ago.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. I hadn't had an anxiety attack up until that point in a while, but it was mobbed and like I couldn't move. And I just felt like I had no control over where my body was because everyone was just so crunched together.
Yes.
Like it was unbelievable. Anyway,
that TV show I was thinking about a little bit, it was called The Goldbergs. Have you seen that?
Oh, I've seen the commercials for it. I didn't. Yeah.
It's hilarious. And Fresh Off the Boat, that takes place in the 90s. That's the first TV show I've seen that takes place in the 90s.
Okay, that wasn't in the 90s.
And that's pretty fun because it takes place where this family moves to Orlando from somewhere on the East Coast.
Okay.
And they're more or less, it's the time when Shaq's really big. It's all the video games.
Okay.
It's more or less this guy narrating his life with his family.
Okay.
Moving from like city to city. And it's like, it's kind of like that. They're an Asian culture family.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen the commercials. Like I haven't watched it.
It's so good though. It's a lot of fun. I love shows. So what's the other one? There's, the Goldbergs, Fresh Off the Boat. The Blackish takes place in modern times.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know.
Those shows on ABC are really good too. It's like, I don't know. It's like that. It's what I call the modern family phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It's like that where it's like, okay, let's keep on getting different slices of life and do them as TV shows.
Yeah, no, that's fun. Well, most of my quote TV consumption is on like Netflix, Hulu, and probably going to be consumed by Disney Plus
Hulu
here
too, as well. Like those shows. So definitely, if you get a chance, check those out. It's funny. I'm catching up on all these TV shows of modern era now, and I go like, I don't know how to get some of the '90s TV. Oh, you know what I used to watch a lot in the '90s?
What's that?
Charles in Charge.
What is it?
Charles in Charge. Do you remember that? Scott Baio?
No.
It was like Nicole Eggert was in it. And it was before she was on Baywatch. It might have been late 80s, early 90s. Okay.
Yeah, I'd not even heard of that.
No, that was freaking hilarious.
To me, like the 90s shows, it was Seinfeld, Frasier, Pokemon, but that was the late 90s.
Yeah.
Of course, Spider-Man and X-Men.
Yes, that's true. Those cartoons, yeah.
Those were like the pinnacle of Marvel. I mean, in my opinion, I know Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, more started that. But there were so many great comic arcs that they adapted within those.
Did the 90s have much good TV then besides the cartoons for us?
I like Seinfeld's like still one of my favorite shows.
Frasier and Seinfeld and Friends.
I think Friends is overrated. I don't understand why everyone's obsession with Friends, because Friends was not as good to me as Seinfeld and even Frasier.
But those were just like the popular shows of the 90s. Yeah. Can we name like 10 TV shows from the 90s?
Well, I mean, The Simpsons is still going on,
That's
right?
true. The Simpsons. Yeah, it started in the 80s too, which is ironic as well.
What season are they on?
Gosh, dude. Like, I think it was 1987, 88 was the first season of Simpsons.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like 31 years.
Well, there was a show, I watched it a little bit, but I wasn't really interested. It was called Murphy Brown.
Yes, I remember that too. Saturday Night Live. I used to watch a lot of Saturday Night Live in the 90s because I was getting home late from work and I'd watch Saturday Night Live. So that's probably when I saw a lot of my TV consumption.
There was a lot of great SNL, I think, in the 90s.
David Letterman I'd watch too.
Okay. Yeah. That's so. The 90s shows were 90s shows.
Yes.
Power Rangers started in 94, 95. But going back watching it now, you don't realize how campy stuff is. Like when you're a kid, you just take it seriously, and it was pretty cheesy, and it still is, but it's meant to be.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be anything beyond that, and I think that's what the reboots are for, right? Even though they're gonna allegedly rebooted again now under Hasbro's ownership. But yeah.
I think the 90s were so much more music centric for me rather than TV centric.
Yeah. I see the music. So besides recording all the James Bond songs, my dad listened to a lot of 50s music, so I was really familiar with that.
Nice.
But I had an affinity for that. We had a Peter, Paul, and Mary cassette tape, and I would just listen to Puff the Magic Dragon over and over again.
Puff
and I would rewind it.
Dragon.
And then Elton John's greatest hits. Like I always liked Elton John.
Yes.
I don't know. I guess is that like my rebellion of listening to 60s and 70s music because my dad listened to 50s music. I don't really know.
You're a Renaissance man.
I guess so, because as I became a teenager, I got into classic rock, so I was Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, stuff like that. A little bit of Aerosmith, but a little less, as I continued to get older, but still more, Zeppelin.
Yeah, I was a big fan of all that stuff too, like Led Zeppelin, Def Leppard, like Metallica a little bit too, obviously, like Bon Jovi, Whitesnake. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like it was like a metalhead, like they were a hair band fan, and then the Seattle sound hit. And then I was like, boom, I was hooked. Then it became like alternative.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just kind of funny, like how that whole
getting
thing.
into that.
Nice, dude.
Like I said, no, I love No Doubt now. Like I This is the only thing I listen to on Spotify, and like I make Erica put it on in the car, every weekend, and I have this thing. I like listening to Sunday morning on Sunday morning. I don't know, because I think that's funny. Yes. But that's just my sense of humor, I guess.
It's weird too, because I'm trying to think like what modern musicians are catching my attention, and I don't know why, but I like Bruno Mars. And it's strange saying that, but I don't know why I like Bruno Mars.
I don't know enough to say anything, but
and it's just some of the different people that are popping into my head and go, oh, I kind of wouldn't mind hearing more of that. And there is I'm trying to get back in touch with music, because another thing that happened to me in the 90s too is I was going to school for broadcast business management. I used to want to be a sports radio talk show host.
Nice.
So I transitioned hugely into getting used to listening to sports radio and how they segment their shows and how they build their programming.
And now you're here.
Yes, and it's kind of interesting like that. It's I'm still nowhere near as good, I realized this week, as sports radio experts, because I've been dabbling around in some other like podcasts where these people are professional at what they do, and do you know what I mean? Like I think you're obviously a professional, you got it down pat, but with me, I'm kind of going like, wow, dude, it's like I don't know how to banter in a way that is humorous with people as much as not taking it personally. You know what I mean?
I guess I know what you're saying, but I
can't, I guess I got a little bit of Sheldonism in me. Like I can't tell when someone's, do you know what I mean? Like
I think you're great. So like, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I guess I understand what you're saying to an extent.
I'm not taught to come back to make it good banter back and forth, because like I said, to being raised by a psychologist, it was about respect. And every time I tried bantering with my dad, oh my gosh, dude, he would get so pissed. What are you trying to dig at, Ken? And I'm kind of going, Dad, it's a joke. Get over yourself, dude. Yeah. It's like psychiatrists never stop analyzing what is the underlying meaning of what's being said. Oh my goodness,
that's rough. Yeah. Yes. I mean, to me.
And it's hard podcasts with people that are naturally comedic.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to make it entertaining. And you're kind of going, okay, is there half of a truth in here in what you're joking about with me on? Do you know what I mean? And if there is, that's not very funny.
So you're just
you know what I mean? I'm overanalyzing.
You are overanalyzing it. Because, to me, and like, I mean this in the best way possible to all of you listening, but like, to me, like, this is a bit of an act. Like I do mean what I say, and obviously we're expressing opinions. Like that's all true, but
we're trying to be entertaining too, as well.
Yeah, but like I grew up acting. I'm a voice actor. Like I've taken several acting classes. So like to me, I'm like turning on all those things you learned in acting school and improv.
Yes,
and like that's where like my hosting, kind of comes from. Or at least the way I approach it, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, it's awesome. It's like that's your experience. That's what you learned. And that's like, how the process works. And like that with podcasting, I'm still learning the process of like, okay, do you know what I mean? Like, I guess things need to be spelled out to me. Like, what is the objective of what's happening here? And like, how do I respond to, am I supposed just to be, quiet? We're supposed to be interactive. It's interesting. It's like, it's a lot different. That's why I used to love listening to sports radio, because I like to learn the banter of how people communicate on radio.
You know what trips me out? Because I hooked up with a group for a while to get into esports commentating.
Oh, nice.
And I thought that would be fun. It's like sports commentating, but for people playing video games. Like I thought I could do that, and I thought it would be cool. And like I tried to learn, and like I would go into the voice thing online with them and talk to them in between and stuff to try to learn, and I would mute myself and try to do it along with them, and like I literally I can't
keep up with it,
think that fast. Like you literally have to be so involved in not only the game or the sport, in your case with the sports stuff.
Yes.
And understand every single strategy on the spot and talk about it.
Yes. Yeah, I used to do that with my buddy playing Tecmo Bowl. when we were kids.
Yeah.
We play Tecmo Bowl. I would be commentating the games as we
funny.
play. And it's funny too. It's like that. It's one thing when it's simple, the more complex that the games get, the harder it is to do.
Oh yeah.
Because like as the two, like Tecmo Bowl defenses and Tecmo Bowl plays are so simple.
Yeah.
Now with Madden and with MLB The Show, with different things,
it's almost like real.
It's as close to real as it
Yeah.
gets. It's like that. All right, now it's like that. They're bringing in backup quarterback Tommy Frazier right now off the sideline bench here, and Tommy Frazier, former Nebraska quarterback, so hasn't seen a snap in 3 years since graduating, being a backup quarterback here.
You know, part of it too is like they're fed stuff in their ear. Like they have other people pulling up these statistics.
Right there in front of them,
nobody knows that he's from Nebraska. You know, they don't know who. They can't just sit there and name it without that thing in their ear. So like, I mean, that's part of it too. Is like you can't just pull everything out of your you know what. You know, like I have probably 350 hours of gameplay on Overwatch.
Okay.
I watch Overwatch League. I mean, we've got the New York Excelsior flag right in our little recording room here.
Nice.
Huge fan. Like I watch at least every day that New York plays. But I'll usually watch the other games too, especially, you know, during like the playoffs and stuff. But like all the announcers stuff, like, and I even know what's going on. And like, oh no, you wasted your ult. What are you doing? And then they'll say it. Like I don't think I can say as much as the announcers are saying as they're saying it on the spot like that.
Yes, it's so.
As much as I understand it, like I can't just come up with it.
It's an art on its own.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's an absolute, like that used to be one of my dreams as a kid. Was when I started watching football. For whatever reason, one of my things I wrote down for future goals is I wanted to commentate during a Super Bowl.
Nice.
And it's funny because I would write down more or less like notes of like what I would see happening during the NFL season. And then, you know, almost like dream of being on there with John Madden. And you see, Ken, is what's happening right here is that running back's going right up the middle and go, boom, oh, there's a hole. I see a hole. I'm going to the end zone, to the 10, to the 5, to the 2. I tripped up because the guy just grabbed my ankle, but my fingers and my nose are just 2 inches away from the goal line. If I just would have shook my foot a little bit more, that guy would have been in the end zone. And that's kind of, I'd be like that. Okay, John, thanks for that breakdown, man. It's like it's third down now. And John Elway's behind the line of scrimmage in the shotgun. It's like that. Calling out the plays, the cadence. He sees he's making plays at the line of scrimmage right there. He sees some of the defense he thinks is an opening. He snaps the ball and drops back 3 yards. He sees Rick Nattil in the end zone. Touchdown, Broncos.
Yeah.
And just like stuff like that, just off the top of my head, just imagining what I'm seeing in my head. And I thought that would be a dream to do, but these people that do that do it for 3 hours. Do you know what I mean? And they have to maintain, like during the slow times of the game, find something to talk about that's interesting but yet relative about what's happening.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, when I was putting together live shoots for the soccer team out here before it was sold, and there was the main commentator, and then what we called the color commentator, who was less the statistics and more there to keep it,
like the Madden side of it.
Yeah, exactly. But like as they were, you know, I'm going to say trying to train me because like I still can't do it. And like, you just got to do it is what they said.
Yes.
And like I need more than just, you got to do it because like I can try. And like, you guys are, it's like, oh, they're going down the right lane on Smite and they're going to use Kukul Khan to use this move. But he's got to come back. Like
what's happening
like
here?
I played Smite and like, I still like, there's so much to learn about the strategies and whatever. And like Overwatch, I could maybe pull it off, but like I would not carry it by myself. Like I could maybe hang, but I could not do it with just one person. Like I got to be like one of 4 people or maybe 3. But you know, it's hard, you know, but shifting back to music for a minute. I
apologize. That's one thing I'm known for is I'm the tangent man.
No,
if I had a mutant ability, it's changing tangents on a finger snap.
No, this was great, and that's why I prefer this format. Is because like this is more just fun, casual conversation about you know the topics we care about. You know, and it's all pop culture related, and that's why we're here. But you know, as far as iconic scores, and this is not really music. I think Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are some of the best compositions. And
Indiana Jones, too. I really like the Raiders of the Lost Ark Indiana Jones ones. Dun, 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 dun. It's like any sound that gets you even more interested in the movie that's already awesome. How can that not be a perfect peanut butter and jelly mix?
Oh yeah. Oh well, it's essential to great movie making.
Yeah, and every time you hear that sound, it makes you think of that movie. It's co-branding with each other.
Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing when that mix comes to be. Like you said, James Bond's perfect. Every time you hear that sound, it's like you think of a James Bond movie.
Yep.
You know, you hear that sounds like, oh, I'm not thinking about the music. I'm thinking about, dude, that's Harrison Ford swinging across a mountain pit. You know what I mean? Or a cave pit.
Yeah, so like John Williams and Danny Elfman, and I think it was John Howe who did Lord of the Rings. I think it's like they dominate. Like the great scores.
Yes.
I hope it's not a dying art form. Like I don't know as much about that type of stuff as I'd like to. Especially you get like movies like Guardians of the Galaxy where like they don't necessarily have a score. It's more of a soundtrack, and it's Guardians in particular. Like I don't know if I'd say it's eclectic, but it's an interesting selection. And
they work it into the storytelling. That's all stuff Star-Lord was listening to on
that was a really interesting way of going about it.
Yes.
But man, like that first one was fantastic. We had David Bowie. Who did Cherry Bomb? Was that Blondie?
Cherry Bomb. I think it was Blondie.
Blondie.
She had some Journey in there too, didn't she? If I remember correctly.
Was it Journey on the first one?
I think so. Was there Journey in there? Let me go through everything again too, because I remember like some of these bands were like so iconic in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and of course there was what's that terrible song? Pina Coladas.
Yes, Pina Coladas.
And was it the Roy Orbison version of Hooked on a Feeling?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, dude, Hooked on a Feeling.
But and Michael Jackson, of course, at the end.
Which one was his again too at the end of it?
I'm trying not to sing it because I am tone deaf. It's
let's see. Blue Suede did Hooked on a Feeling. Go All the Ways by the Raspberries. Is that the Cherry Bomb one?
No.
Okay. Let me see. Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum.
But Spirit in the Sky was only on the soundtrack and in the I think in the trailers.
Okay.
That actually didn't make it into the movie.
Okay.
But another great song.
Cherry Bomb was the Runaways.
Was it?
Yeah.
Why did I think it was Blondie?
I don't know. It's like that. It's some of these bands, like I know the music, but I don't know the bands as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy.
There's
it's
a
like
Michael
that.
Jackson one in there.
Yeah, it's by the Jackson 5. I Want You Back.
Yeah, that one.
Pretty cool.
And then what's the other one? The Ain't No Mountain High, Ain't No Valley Low.
Ain't no
mountain high enough.
Let me see. It's Marvin Gaye.
Yes,
and
that's what I
Tammy
thought.
Terrell.
I just didn't want to be wrong.
OOH Child.
But fantastic soundtrack. I would argue that Watchmen kind of did that first, maybe as not to as much success, but the Watchmen soundtrack had a lot of nostalgic songs too.
Yes.
Like off the top of my head, I remember All Along the Watchtower, and I believe it was the Jimi Hendrix version when they were going to fight Ozymandias, at the end. But I mean, there were some good songs in the Watchmen.
I gotta say too, was like DC tried recreating that Guardians of the Galaxy in Suicide Squad.
They did, and you know what?
Yes, that had a lot of good music. They failed in it, but I thought they attempted.
I felt like I liked the songs that they used, but coming off of Guardians, like I literally felt like they were trying to copy it. Like, look, we have these whacked out characters and a great soundtrack.
Yes,
and they were trying to do different because like they had Eminem in there, which I liked because I do like Eminem. I'd say that's a guilty pleasure.
No, totally. And I said that was one of those like that. The music tried moving the movie. Even though I don't think they totally successfully executed the same way Guardians did.
Well, here's the thing. Name another song in the Suicide Squad track.
Gosh, dude.
See, that's what I mean. It's like we know what they did, but you can't even
which
think
ones
of
were in
it.
it.
The Guardians soundtrack, like we could think of the whole thing.
Yes.
Because it works well. And I mean,
Imagine Dragons, that's one of those bands I've been catching on to lately.
Oh,
too.
they're good.
Yeah, I like them too as well.
I do too, especially Radioactive.
Yes.
There's they did that song with Lindsey Sterling
Creedence Clearwater Revival was in there too.
CCR?
Yeah. Go ahead though.
Oh, I was just going to say that they covered that with Lindsay Sterling, and she does it on violin, and it's fantastic. If you have not seen that,
I'll have to check that out too, dude.
One of the things you brought, and all right, you all don't hate me for saying this, but I've never seen Back to the Future. And you brought up you brought up that soundtrack.
When I was a kid, next to Star Wars, I would put Back to the Future when I was a kid as one of the best trilogies of all time.
Okay.
It's crazy to think about that because now like Back to the Future, unfortunately, is not holding up the test of time.
Okay.
But when I was a kid, oh my gosh, dude, the Back to the Future trilogy was so much fun. Michael J. Fox was in his prime.
Okay.
I mean, Marty McFly and Doc Brown. I mean, there's so many Rick and Morty fans right now. I tell more or less if you want to talk to Dan Harmon, the guy that created Rick and Morty, I can almost guarantee you that he would put Back to the Future in one of his top 5 movie choices.
I've only watched a couple of episodes of Rick and Morty, and like I personally don't like it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I do understand that it seems like a
Future,
parody. And I understand that. I did see parts of, or most of the Back to the Future where they're cowboys.
Yes.
Is it the third one?
Yeah, it's the third one. Yeah, that one was probably the worst of the 3.
Okay, well,
I hate saying it.
So that's my exposure Back to the Future, and that's probably why I haven't been motivated to watch anymore.
It ties everything up because there's Easter eggs in it that tie into the other 2 movies.
I see.
And so it is one of those, like I said too, if it's the trilogy, to me, it's like the perfect form of a trilogy because they reference each other the whole way through. And it's just, it kind of cracks me up because there's so many little things that make no sense if you just try to watch one of them by themselves.
Okay.
But if you watch the whole thing from beginning to end, everything seals its circuit really well.
That was my fault.
No, it's okay. It's just like, I can see why you not really enjoy it if you just like watch one segment of it type of thing.
What is this? Like,
yeah, this makes no sense. I know what you mean because Back to the Future Part 3, I'm going, okay, this is my least favorite one, but I see what they did because they connected all the pieces. It's like little puzzle pieces that they put together to get everything back to the future correct or back to the past. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. It's fun in a lot of ways. Michael J. Fox was an amazing actor in it. Christopher Lloyd, that was my real first experience with Christopher Lloyd. And he nailed this crazy professor aspect of being the genius ahead of his time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was like, how would you say the guy that evolution? Oh my gosh, dude. I was forgetting his name right now. I was getting that brain fog for some stupid reason. Darwin. He was the Darwin of time travel.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean? That's the best way to put it, is like that. He figured out time travel and he knew every single rule and things you can't do, things that you can do. It was pretty well executed in my mind. And just him being the nutty scientist of like that. No, it's like that. As crazy as he seemed, he had everything figured out, but he was so far ahead of the time of anybody else that this Marty McFly guy was interested in what he was doing.
He was in Taxi, right?
Yeah, I think Christopher Lloyd was in Taxi.
Right?
He was, dude. Yeah,
I was trying to think of my first exposure to him, and I think it was either Taxi or Clue.
Maybe in Clue, too. Because I said, too, it was
Wasn't
like that.
he like one of the professers in Clue?
Yeah, I could see him being like a nutty professor type of thing. He wasn't the nutty professor, but he was always like, was he a serious professor?
I think he was I think he was kind of more of the straight act in Clue, like Professor Plum, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense because that's the Clue game character. So he didn't act nutty at all in that or anything?
No, like, you know who was nutty was the one, I don't know the actress's name, but she played like it was either Mrs. Peacock or
Mrs. Peacock's one of the other characters in Clue.
It's either Miss Peacock, Miss White, or the red piece, like Miss Scarlet or something like that. She was the whack job. I remember that. I was like on my face. I can't even do it. Like, but I don't. If Christopher Lloyd was in Clue, he was not whacked out.
And the Back to the Future soundtrack like helped carry me into liking that movie too as well. Like The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News. Okay. That was one of the biggest hits of that year. And that helped bring back that memory of like every time I hear that song, I think of Back to the Future now. I mean, that whole, get back in time too as well. Another Huey Lewis and the News.
That whole era, I think, had these songs that were part of the movies that were popular. Like, I mean, you look at a movie like think it's The Breakfast Club where
Yes.
they have.
It's the Rob Reiner movies. Is that the guy that did all those movies?
I don't know. You're lucky I even saw Breakfast Club.
Nice, dude. Yes, dude. Did you like Breakfast Club?
Dude, I don't think it's for me. Like it was fine, but I guess I just don't understand the hype. You know, and as
Like,
we lose half of our viewers here because I'm trying not to be critical, but like
That's all right. That's your opinion.
It was fine. I just don't get it. I mean, I like singles better.
Yeah,
that was more interesting.
But that one song, "Don't You Forget About Me."
Yeah, that's the one I was referring to.
That's like that. Every time I hear that, it's like, oh, it's a Breakfast Club song.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Weird. Like it was probably a huge song before that, but people think of it because of the movie that it's so deeply connected with. It's like that.
And it just shows you like how important music is to, you know, filmmaking and, you know, whether it's movies, you know, TV, you know, like a good soundtrack or score, like it really helps like make it a good movie or not. Like,
another one that's very underrated is the Jurassic Park one for a score, a music score.
Okay.
Because a lot of people like that. If they hear that music score, it's like, oh, that's Jurassic Park.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting to like, because I don't know, it's weird because there's no real songs or singles in that. It's just the music score in that movie is like so keeps you intense of the mood of like that. Okay, this is really freaking scary with these dinosaurs here, even though they're just nature and it's just I can't remember. It's sad. I can picture it in my head, the music score, but I can't. I don't want to butcher it. Trying to get my mouth and my voice, my vocal cords to try to match what they did inside of that movie. It was insane.
It's important. You know?
Yes. But do you have like, what is your favorite overall, any song from any movie that stands out to you the most that just constantly comes back at you?
Man, that's hard, you know, because like, you know, Lord of the Rings are probably some of my favorite movies, and like the soundtrack was just, I guess I call it more the score, just so well done. You know, some of the songs were by Enya. I believe that's who is doing like any of the singing. I could listen to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. Between Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, like those are two scores I could just listen to like classical music, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, as much as I think James Gunn is overrated, I've got to give him some credit for the Guardians 1, you know, soundtrack.
Mine's gonna probably trip you out.
What's that?
It's still to this day my favorite movie soundtrack. It's the 1986 animated cartoon movie soundtrack.
Of what?
Transformers.
What?
Yes, dude.
It had a soundtrack?
It does.
I haven't seen it.
It's got Weird Al Yankovic in it. It's got Stan Bush.
The Transformers movie?
Yes. Dare to Be Stupid. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Okay, it's the Junkians. Do you know much about Transformers? Those robots from the Junk Planet?
No, I don't.
They spoke in TV language.
Oh,
and so everything they quoted was TV commercials or famous TV lines.
Oh, how funny.
And Weird Al Yankovic wrote the song for their segment of introduction. Dare to Be Stupid. It's like, it's almost like off of VH1. Is that not VH1? Was VHF? UHF?
No,
that Weird Al Yankovic movie? Where he did the
no
TV
idea.
changing. Like, it's a 1980s movie. That's hilarious. But it's Weird Al Yankovic doing like a Saturday Night Live type of thing of it just being different things that he sees on TV. Like he did a Rambo thing on there.
Is that why in the live action one, was it supposed to be a reference to that when they had Bumblebee using the radio?
Yes.
Is that where that came from?
I'm pretty sure. On that too. It's like that. Let me get you the list of the soundtrack here, but you got the touch, you got the power. Yeah. The Dare to Be Stupid was Weird Al Yankovic's. Instruments of Destruction was an awesome song. If you listen to this, it's like it's a soundtrack you can play in your car, and it feels like you're listening to the radio.
So it was made for Transformers, then,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah, The Touch by Stan Bush, Instruments of Destruction by NRG, The Death of Optimus Prime, which was just pure instrumental, is like still to this day. If I heard that, oh, that's the Death of Optimus Prime segment from Transformers the movie. Dare, another Stan Bush song. Kick-Axe did something called Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way. It was time relative metal by bands that weren't always huge. like Lion did the Transformers theme. Like the Autobot Decepticon battle was done by Vince DiCola, which was another pure instrumental. And then Dare to Be Stupid was the Weird Al Yankovic one. I mean, let me see if we can get it to play here.
No, don't play it. Oh. We'll get flagged on iTunes.
Okay, so we're doing here. So this is heard off screen, but if you guys get a chance, listen to it on your own off radio thing on it.
I don't want Apple Big Brother to take us off.
Yes, absolutely. But if you guys get a chance, dude, it's just give it a listen. And if you don't like it, you don't have to. But it was just what I said too. When it comes to being a kid 12 years old and enjoying it, and if you popped it in today, I'd still enjoy the music that's on that because it flows so well as an album.
Yeah.
And in the movie, it's like it's in different order. But on the album, just the way they set it up, you can listen to the whole CD, whatever you want to listen onto your iTunes or whatever. It will be a fun car ride if you're going something for an hour. It's a fun. How would you say it's a road trip music?
Yeah.
Keeps you moving. Everybody can have fun listening to it in the car. People can sing along because, especially Weird Al Yankovic. Dude, Weird Al Yankovic, if you hear the song and know the lyrics, it starts to be kind of one of those fun, like steering wheel tapping, like, boom, let's just have fun while we go do something type of music.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, like I said, too, weird one, but that's the one that sticks with me the most from being of any age, being 12 years old, hearing it for the first time. And look at me pop it in now and see if we can get it going again. And I definitely would have no problem listening to it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I feel that way about listening to like the Guardian soundtrack in the car.
Yes.
And like when I was younger, I did listen to the James Bond songs. Not so much anymore. But I mean, just our musical tastes change. I mean, I still really like, a lot of the James Bond songs.
Yes.
But Ken, before we wrap up, how do we find out more about Drawn to Comics?
Yeah, you go onto Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. It's Drawn to Comics, just how it's spelled all the way through. And also on the website, drawntocomics.com. And we do have a physical brick and mortar. You can come in and say hi to us at downtown Glendale, 5801 West Glendale Avenue. We appreciate all you guys coming in and sharing what you love, whether it be comics, music, TV shows. We think it's a blast, whether, listen to us here or coming in and tell us what's going on in your life.
And I'm sure most of you guys listening already follow Nightcap Chat, but Nightcap Chat on Facebook and Twitter, all one word, Nightcap_chat on Instagram. Don't forget to like, share, follow. The Nightcap Chat is available everywhere. Like they hand out podcasts for free, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and things I'm not even sure. I didn't even know that we were on like Castbox. Nice. And I see some of you guys listening to us on there, and something else that's slipping on my mind. Like wherever iTunes distributes, we're apparently on there. So lots of options for your listening pleasure. And you can follow me on social media at Blade O'Neill on Instagram and Twitter, and at Blade O'Neill VO on Facebook. I appreciate you all taking the time to listen and making us part of your weekly routines. Let's catch you all next week.
Look forward to seeing you then.